My name is Lena Marquez. 3 years ago, I lost everything in the span of a week: my job, my husband, and my first child. Now, I'm a single mother raising the daughter of a man who vanished, only to find myself face to face with the ex-husband who once bought my silence with $20,000. But you know what's worse? When both men came back at the same time, and I had to choose between forgiveness or disappearing all over again. Before I share the rest of my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe if you've ever had to rise from a heartbreak you thought would destroy you. Trust me, you're going to want to hear what happens next. The divorce papers felt heavier than the pregnancy test in my other hand. I stood in our Austin kitchen, no, his kitchen now, watching Cole straighten his tie in the hallway mirror like this was any other Tuesday morning. "Sign them, Lena." His voice carried that same boardroom coldness he'd perfected over the years. "My lawyer says we can expedite this if you don't contest." I set the test on the marble counter, the little plus sign facing up like a prayer. "I'm pregnant." He didn't even turn around, just adjusted his cufflinks, the silver ones I'd given him for our 5th anniversary. That's unfortunate timing. Unfortunate. Like rain on a golf day, like traffic before a meeting. "It's your child, Cole." No. Now he faced me. Those green eyes I'd once drowned in now sharp as broken glass. "It's your problem. I've been clear about this from day one. No kids. They're career killers." My hand moved to my stomach instinctively. 3 years ago, I'd been creative director at Morrison Communications, youngest in the company's history. Then Cole convinced me to quit, to focus on us. Now I understood he didn't want a partner. He wanted a trophy that stayed polished on the shelf. "What about what I want?" He laughed, actually laughed. "What you want? You wanted to play house. Well, congratulations, you played yourself." He grabbed his briefcase. "Sign the papers. I'll have $20,000 transferred to your account. That should cover whatever you decide to do." The door clicked shut with surgical precision. 3 days later, I lost the baby in a hospital room that smelled like bleach and broken dreams. The nurse held my hand while I sobbed, asking if there was anyone she could call. There wasn't. Cole had already blocked my number. I signed those papers with hands that still shook from grief, each letter of my name a small death. My lawyer, a kind woman who charged half her usual rate out of pity, pushed a tissue box across her desk. "You sure you don't want to fight for more? The prenup has loopholes." I shook my head. $20,000 and a broken heart. That's what 7 years came down to. I took his money because I had nothing left. No job, no family in Texas, no baby growing inside me anymore. The Austin skyline blurred through my tears as I drove away for the last time. Everything I owned packed in a Honda Civic that coughed black smoke. In the rearview mirror, the city that had promised me everything became just another grave I'd left flowers on. Denver snow fell different than Austin rain. Quieter, more forgiving. 3 years had taught me that you could build a new life on the ashes of an old one, even if the foundation stayed shaky. "Table 12 needs refills," Marcus called from the kitchen of the Gilded Fork, where crystal chandeliers threw light on conversations worth more than I'd make in a lifetime. I smoothed my black server's apron over my swollen belly, 7 months now, and this baby kicked like she was already fighting the world. Different from the first one, who'd been so still, so quiet, like she knew she wasn't meant to stay. "On it!" I called back, grabbing the water pitcher with practiced ease. The weight of it pulled at my back, but I'd learned to move differently now, redistributing the load like I'd redistributed my life. Dr. Adrian Boone had been a mistake wrapped in good intentions. 6 months of "I'm not ready for anything serious" became 2 months of "maybe we could try," became a positive pregnancy test and a disconnected phone number. I'd found out from his colleague at the hospital, married, 2 kids, a house in Cherry Creek. Another man who saw me as a temporary fix to a permanent problem. But this time was different. This time, I kept the baby. "You sure you want to do this alone?" My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, had asked when I told her, her knitting needles clicking judgment. I'm already alone, I'd answered, and somehow that made it easier. The Gilded Fork didn't ask questions when I'd shown up for the interview. Clearly pregnant, clearly desperate. They needed experienced servers for their upscale clientele, and I needed health insurance. Simple math, like everything in my life now. I poured water for the couple at 12, their wedding rings catching the light. The woman laughed at something the man said, touching his hand across the table. I used to do that with Cole, back when his hands meant safety instead of signatures on legal documents. When are you due, honey? The woman smiled up at me, genuine warmth in her eyes. 9 weeks. I returned the smile, the practiced one that didn't reach my eyes. Flying solo, this time. She squeezed my hand briefly. You're brave. I wanted to tell her that bravery and having no other choice looked the same from the outside. Instead, I topped off their glasses and moved to the next table. My baby doing somersaults like she was already restless in this small life I'd built for us. Tonight's VIP reservation was for 8 o'clock. Table 21, the one with the best view of the mountains. I didn't look at the name on the list. I'd learned not to hope for things that weren't meant for people like me. The champagne flute slipped from my hand when I saw him. Cole sat at table 21 like he owned the place, which, knowing him, he probably could. 3 years had only sharpened his edges, added silver to his temples that made him look distinguished instead of older. The woman beside him sparkled with diamonds and political pedigree. I recognized Mayor Hartley's daughter from the society pages I used to pretend I didn't read. The crystal shattered against Italian marble, champagne spreading like spilled promises. Shit, I breathed, dropping to my knees. 7 months pregnant, and I was on the floor again, cleaning up messes. The irony wasn't lost on me. Let me help. A familiar hand reached down. I knew those fingers, had kissed each one, had worn the ring they'd once offered. I looked up, and time collapsed. Cole's face went white, his eyes tracking from my face to my belly to my name tag and back again. His fiancée touched his shoulder, concerned. Darling, do you know her? I stood without his help, broken glass crunching under my sensible shoes. I'll get someone to clean this up. Marcus will take your table tonight. Lena. My name on his lips still sounded like ownership. Lena, wait. But I was already walking away, my baby choosing that moment to kick hard enough to steal my breath. Or maybe that was just the past, punching holes in the armor I'd spent 3 years building. Marcus intercepted me in the kitchen. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Something like that. I gripped the prep counter, knuckles white. Can you take 21? I'll cover your other tables. That's the Harrington party. Big money, potential investors. Boss wants... Please. The word came out cracked. He studied my face, then nodded. Go take 5. I got it. I escaped to the employee bathroom, locking the door before my legs gave out. In the mirror, I looked exactly like what I was. A pregnant server in a uniform that didn't quite fit anymore. Sweat beading on my forehead, hands shaking like withdrawal. 3 years. 3 years of rebuilding, of 3 a.m. feedings I'd never get to do with my first baby, of therapy I couldn't afford but went to anyway, of learning to sleep in the middle of a bed that felt too big even in my studio apartment. 3 years, undone by a reservation I hadn't bothered to read. A knock rattled the door. Lena, I know you're in there. Cole, of course. He'd probably never met a boundary he couldn't cross with enough determination. I'm working, I called back, splashing cold water on my face. We need to talk. No, I said to the door, to him, to the girl I used to be. We really don't. But when I emerged, he was still there, filling the narrow hallway like he'd filled my life, completely, devastatingly, with no room to breathe. Who's the father? Cole had cornered me by the dumpsters during my break, snow falling between us like static. His fiancée was inside, probably wondering why he'd excused himself so abruptly. Someone better than you. I pulled my coat tighter, but the cold went bone deep. Not that it's a high bar. Lena, I had no idea you're... He gestured at my belly, words failing him for maybe the first time ever. Pregnant? Yeah, well, some of us don't get to choose when life happens. I turned to go back inside, but he caught my elbow. Even through layers of wool, his touch burned. Are you okay? Financially, I mean. If you need. I yanked away so hard I nearly slipped on the ice. Your money? Again? What is it with you and throwing cash at problems? That's not what I have a job, insurance, a place to live. I don't need anything from you. My voice shook, betraying me. I needed you 3 years ago, when I was bleeding out alone in a hospital room, wondering if losing our baby was punishment for not being enough. The words hung in the frozen air. I'd never told him about the miscarriage, had carried that secret like shrapnel. His face crumpled. Our what? But I was already walking away, leaving him with the truth he'd paid $20,000 to avoid knowing. 2 weeks later, the anonymous letters started. Your past has a way of finding you. Some mistakes can't be hidden forever. Adrian Boone knows where you work. My hands trembled as I read the last one. Adrian, who'd promised me butterflies and delivered abandonment. How did he even know where I was? Then came the meeting with HR. Someone had sent them screenshots of an old Austin gossip blog that painted me as a gold-digging homewrecker who'd tried to trap Cole Harrington with a fake pregnancy. All lies, but lies with enough truth mixed in to sound believable. We value our reputation, Diane from HR said, not meeting my eyes. Perhaps it would be best if you took early maternity leave, permanently. I packed my locker while the lunch rush happened without me, my coworkers avoiding eye contact like unemployment was contagious. Only Marcus helped carry my things to my car. This is bullshit, he muttered. You're the best server we have. Doesn't matter. I placed my hand on my belly, feeling the baby shift. We'll be okay. But that night, going through bills with no income coming in, I wasn't sure that was true. The baby kicked against my ribs like she was trying to escape the mess I'd made of our lives before she even got here. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I know about Adrian. Meet me at Rosetti's Cafe tomorrow at 2. Come alone. See, I deleted it, then retrieved it from the trash. Then threw my phone across the room, where it cracked against the wall like everything else I touched. Rosetti's was the kind of place that served breadsticks in a basket and had candles stuffed in Chianti bottles. Cole sat in the back corner, looking as out of place as a Rolex in a thrift store. You came, he said, standing when I approached. Old habits. You got me fired. I lowered myself carefully into the chair, ignoring his attempt to help. So yeah, I came. That wasn't... I didn't know someone would... He rubbed his face. Adrian Boone is being investigated for insurance fraud. Did you know that? My water glass paused halfway to my lips. What? He's been filing false claims, using his access to patient records. There's a whole federal case building. Cole leaned forward. Lena, you're listed as a potential witness. You have recordings of him, apparently? Something about medical procedures he tried to pressure you into? The room tilted. Those late-night voicemails Adrian left when I told him about the pregnancy, demanding I take care of it or he'd make sure I regretted it. I'd saved them out of spite, then forgotten them in the chaos of starting over. How do you know this? Because I've been protecting you. He pulled out a folder, sliding it across the red checkered tablecloth. Someone, probably Adrian, hired a guy to break into your apartment last month. Neighbor called it in before he got inside. That's when I started digging. I stared at the police report. The date matched a night I'd worked late, when Mrs. Chen mentioned seeing someone suspicious by my door. You've been watching me? Protecting, he corrected. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. But my voice lacked conviction. The baby rolled, making my whole belly shift visibly. Cole's eyes tracked the movement. How far along? 7.5 months. And the father? Is Adrian, I admitted, hating how the words tasted, who's married with 2 kids and a house in Cherry Creek, which I found out after he vanished. I'm sorry. He said it simply, like he meant it. For that. For everything. For not knowing about our baby. Tears burned my eyes. I blamed pregnancy hormones. I lost her the same week you left. Stress, the doctor said. Like my body knew I couldn't do it alone. Her? I always thought it was a girl. My hand covered my belly. This one is too. already stubborn as hell, like her mother. We sat in silence while the waiter brought lukewarm minestrone and breadsticks that tasted like cardboard. Or maybe that was just the lump in my throat. I want to help, Cole said finally. Not with money, not with lawyers. Just help. Be there. For both of you, if you'll let me. She's not yours. Doesn't matter. He met my eyes, and for a second I saw the man I'd married. I wasn't there for the baby who was. Let me be there for the one who isn't. My phone rang before I could answer. The hospital's number flashed on the cracked screen. Miss Marquez, you need to come in. There's been an accident. The fluorescent lights made everything look pale and desperate. I'd rear-ended someone at a stoplight. Barely a bump, but enough to send my body into panic mode. Contractions are 4 minutes apart, the nurse said, checking the monitor strapped to my belly. You're in active labor. It's too early. She's not ready. She's decided otherwise. Dr. Martinez patted my hand. 34 weeks isn't ideal, but we've got excellent NICU facilities. Is there someone we should call? I opened my mouth to say no, then saw Cole in the doorway, snow in his hair, looking wrecked. How did you left your location on. He held up his phone. Old habits. Another contraction hit, stealing my words and my breath and any pretense of control. Cole crossed the room in 2 strides, offering his hand. I crushed it. Breathe, he coached, like he'd been there for the first one, like he had any right to sound so calm. In through your nose, out through your mouth. I know how to breathe, I snarled, then immediately grabbed him again as the next wave hit. Hours blurred together. Cole never moved, never complained when I called him names that would have made a sailor blush, never mentioned that his fiancée had probably gone home alone. He fed me ice chips and told me terrible jokes and held my hand like letting go would kill us both. I can't do this, I sobbed around hour 6, exhausted and terrified, and so far from the person I'd planned to be. I'm not ready to be someone's mother. Yes, you are. He wiped sweat from my forehead with a cool cloth. You already are. You have been since the day you decided to keep her. What if I'm like him? What if I leave when it gets hard? You won't. His voice carried the certainty I'd lost. You stayed when I left. You rebuilt when everything broke. You're the strongest person I know, Lena. She's lucky to have you. I wanted to tell him about the nights I'd cried on my bathroom floor, about the times I'd driven past baby stores and couldn't go in, about how I'd bought a crib but hadn't assembled it because what if I jinxed everything again? Instead, another contraction tore through me, and then the doctor was saying, push. And then she was here, tiny and perfect and screaming like she had opinions about everything already. They placed her on my chest, all 4 pounds and change of her, and the world remade itself around this small, impossible person. She's beautiful, Cole whispered, tears running unchecked down his face. What's her name? Mira. I touched her impossibly small fingers. It means wonder in Spanish. Perfect, he said, and for once, something actually was. The NICU team whisked her away for tests and monitoring, leaving me empty-armed again. But this time, I knew she was coming back. This time, I'd get to keep her. Thank you, I told Cole, for being here. Always, he said, and almost made me believe it. 2 months later, Mira slept in the bassinet beside my couch while I sorted through legal papers. Adrian had been arrested, finally, and the FBI wanted my testimony. Cole had hired me a lawyer, not charity, he'd insisted, just making sure Adrian pays for everything he's done. Cole himself had become a strange constant, showing up with groceries I hadn't asked for, assembling the crib I'd been afraid to touch, holding Mira while I showered. He'd moved into a rental house 10 minutes away for work, though his work had always been downtown. She's got your eyes, he said now, Mira cradled against his chest like he'd been born to hold her. She's got Adrian's eyes, I corrected, folding burp cloths with mechanical precision. No. He studied her face with lawyer-like intensity. The shape, maybe, but the way she looks at things, like she's cataloging everything for later, that's all you. I wanted to stay angry. Anger was armor, and I'd need it when he inevitably left again. But watching him whisper stock reports to my daughter like bedtime stories made the edges soft. Why are you doing this? I asked for the 100th time. Because I should have done it before. He didn't look up from Mira's face. Because I spent 3 years becoming everything I swore I'd never be. My father, who thought money could replace presence. Because you deserved better, and she deserves everything. She's not yours to feel guilty about. Guilt would be easier. He finally met my eyes. This is something else. My phone buzzed with a news alert I'd been dreading. Harrington Industries linked to controversial insurance scheme. The article detailed how Cole's company had invested in several of Adrian's ventures 3 years ago, right around the time I'd lost everything. The timing was devastating, the implications worse. You knew him. My voice came out steady, which surprised us both. You gave him the money that let him hurt all those people. That let him hurt me. Cole went pale. Lena, I had no idea. You never do you? I took Mira from him, needing her weight to anchor me. Never knew I was pregnant. Never knew Adrian was a predator. Never knew your money was destroying lives while you played King of the Mountain. That's not fair? Fair! I laughed, sharp and bitter. Was it fair when you left me bleeding and alone? Was it fair when your signature bought my silence for $20,000? Mira fussed, picking up on my tension. I forced myself to breathe, to lower my voice, to be the mother she needed instead of the broken woman I was. You should go, I said quietly. This was a mistake, all of it. Lena, go. He left, but not before placing a key on my counter. To the house, he said, in case you need anything. For her. After the door closed, I packed everything that mattered, which wasn't much when you'd learned to travel light. Mira watched from her car seat, eyes wide and trusting. Just you and me, baby girl, I whispered, like it was always meant to be. We drove through the night, leaving Denver and its ghosts behind. By dawn, we were somewhere new, somewhere Cole Harrington's money couldn't reach. Or so I thought. The lake house in Grand Lake was supposed to be my disappearing act. Instead, it became the place Cole found me, standing on my doorstep with rain in his hair and something that looked like devastation in his eyes. How? Was all I managed. Mrs. Chen, he admitted. She was worried. Said you left without saying goodbye. 2 weeks of hiding, undone by a concerned neighbor. I shifted Mira to my other hip, her weight a reminder of everything at stake. I can't do this dance anymore, Cole. I'm tired. Then don't dance. He pulled something from his pocket, a weathered receipt. Just listen. I recognized it immediately. Giovanni's, our last birthday dinner together. The night before I found out about his affair, when I still believed in forever. Turn it over, he said quietly. My handwriting, faded but legible. I would have kept the baby if you'd only asked. You wrote this after I ordered dessert to go, he continued. Said you had something to tell me. I never looked at it. Shoved it in my wallet and forgot. Too busy planning my exit to see the breadcrumbs you were leaving. The receipt trembled in my hand. I'd written those words full of hope, thinking I'd surprise him with the pregnancy test over tiramisu at home. Instead, I'd come home to him packing. I found it last month, Cole said. In the wallet I'd retired when we divorced. 3 years too late to matter, except it does matter. Because I'm asking now. Asking what? If I can be her father. He looked at Mira, who was gumming her fist with determined concentration. Not her biological father, just her father. The one who shows up, the one who stays. You don't stay, I whispered. You leave. It's what you do. I did, he corrected. Past tense. But I've been here every day for 2 months. I've changed diapers at 3 a.m. and sang off-key lullabies and learned that she only sleeps if you play that white noise that sounds like rain. His voice cracked. I know I failed you, failed our baby, but let me not fail this one. Mira reached for him, babbling her baby nonsense. Traitor. No promises, I heard myself say. No rings, no papers, just show up, every day. Prove that staying is something you can learn. Start from here? He held out his hands, not for me, but for Mira. I placed her in his arms, watching how naturally she settled against his chest. Start from here. But Cole? This time nobody leaves. Nobody leaves, he agreed, and followed me inside. The receipt fluttered to the wet porch, our past dissolving in the rain. Inside, Mira laughed, the first time, and the sound rebuilt the world.